Number 10. X-Baby. This alternate baby comes to us from the short stories that make up X-Millennial Visions 2000. Here in the story titled Bringing Up Baby, we learn of a son that Jean and Scott both have together in this alternate future. The story shares a conversation the two have, an argument regarding Jean being pregnant. She wants to keep the baby, Scott is contemplating them not having the baby, considering all the problems that then could arise from that. What if something happened? What if he just isn't ready? He's scared, and considering his track record with this kind of situation, I can't say I blame him. Jean keeps pressing though. What if their child has superpowers and can defend themselves? Look at Reed Richards and Sue Storm. They are both heroes and parents. It could work. The next page shows a picture of their son that I guess they agreed to have, who seems to have his father's eyes and his mother's telekinetic powers even as a baby. Their parents look on, slightly amazed and terrified. I feel like raising a super baby would be really hard. Also, where did they get those X-Men brand diapers? Number 9. Summers Twins. The Summers Twins are the children of Emma Frost and Scott Summers. They have a bit of a Cuckoo's vibe to them, but also have darker eyes and freckles than the Cuckoos, resembling Emma a little less and Scott a little more. They have psionic powers which allow them to create solid psionic objects similar to Psylocke's weapons. In the reality of Earth 41001, which they originate from, they are not the only children of Emma and Scott either. Their mother is very protective of both of them, as well as all of her and Scott's children. In this reality, Scott and Emma are actually married. Number 8. Stryfe. Stryfe is the evil clone of Cable, who is the biological offspring of Scott Summers and Madeline Pryor. He was created to be a fail-safe child should the young baby Nathan die, succumbing to the techno-organic virus that plagued him. Creating this clone who would grow up to become Stryfe was the decision of Mother Askani, who knew of baby Nathan's prophesied importance. Stryfe was also brought into the world with the same techno-organic virus that plagued his twin, but as Clan Askani were present for his entire growth cycle, they were able to actually minimize the infection, reducing the risk of it becoming lethal. Both children ended up surviving, but shortly after, Apocalypse busted in and the Askani were only able to save one of the two babies. The baby they saved was actually the true son of Scott, Nathan Summers. Apocalypse thought he had captured baby Cable, but he'd actually retrieved his clone, Stryfe, instead. Stryfe as such was raised by Apocalypse to become his powerful weapon and potentially become the perfect body for Apocalypse to transfer himself into in the future. He was also pretty much raised to be evil, so yeah. Number 7. Megan Summers. Megan Summers is the telepathic daughter of both Scott Summers and Emma Frost. She is from the reality of Earth 41001, where they are married. She is the older sister to the Summers twins we talked about earlier, and her youngest sibling Alex, named after the deceased Uncle Alex, aka Havoc. She also studied at the Xavier Institute and was training to become a hero like her parents before her. Number 6. Ruby Summers. Ruby Summers is the daughter of Scott Summers and Emma Frost, and comes from the alternate reality that is also the home reality of Bishop, Earth 1191. Ruby ended up being named by Layla Miller herself, who suggested the name to both her parents. Her mother in this reality is dead, but Scott is still alive, although he is part cyborg in this alternate future reality. Ruby also becomes motivated by Layla to continue the dream of the X-Men and fight for mutant freedom. Her powers are similar to her father's, but she has full control over her optic blasts. She can shapeshift into her Ruby form, which is similar to her mother's Diamond form, and while in this form she does not age, nor does she require food or water to survive. Number 5. Nate Gray. Nate Gray is the son of Scott and Jean, who was raised by Forge, who basically became his foster father. Scott and Jean never really knew of their relation to Nate when he was born, as he was created by Mr. Sinister to be the perfect psionic mutant. Sinister created him using the genetic material of both Jean Grey and Scott Summers. Mr. Sinister just has all that genetic material. Nate did end up becoming the perfect psionic mutant and is known for being one of the most powerful mutants around. At one point he was even seen as being a mutant Jesus, being known for a time by the mantle of the Second Coming. He has been shown using his powers to heal and even resurrect people on occasion, as well as warp reality. He also is believed to be a potential avatar of the Phoenix Force due to his ties to Jean Grey and his immense power. Nate also has a telepathic link to his alternate reality brother, Nathan Summers. Number 4. Mother Askani. Mother Askani is Rachel Summers, but from an alternate timeline. Although Rachel has been explained in the comics as being unique when it comes to kind of her alternates. She doesn't so much have alternate versions of herself, more that there are like different aspects of herself scattered throughout various realities and time, but Rachel is kind of always Rachel. She's She's both all there is and then kinda so much more than that. It's confusing, but it's also what makes her cool. This version of Rachel came into her own state of being after she sacrificed herself to save Captain Britain. Becoming lost in the time stream, she ended up in an alternate future in the 37th century where Apocalypse had taken over the planet 100 years prior. She developed the clan Askani and would be the one to give the order for Sister Askani to help save the prophesied Messiah referred to as Askani's son or Dayspring, which would end up being her alternate timeline brother, Nathan Summers. So many alternate timeline siblings. Hard to keep track of all this traveling through time and alternate realities. Number 3. Young Cable. Who is this young kid? I thought Cable was an old grizzled man like we saw in Deadpool 2. If that's what you're thinking, well, you're not wrong, but also you kinda are wrong. There are in essence sorta 2 Cables, but there's only one Nathan Summers. Sort of. I mean, it's complicated. Basically, young Cable is old Cable, but from his own past. Young Cable, however, killed himself, older Cable, and in essence replaced him in the comics. While he's technically the same character just from his own past, he's also kind of a very different person as he's at a different stage in his life. In essence, Cable closed his own time loop when he killed himself, which a lot of people hated as they figured, how would Cable not see that coming, and also, they miss old Cable. But of course, all of that confusion was explained. In essence, old Cable knew it was coming, but he also knew because of his past that it kinda had to happen, so yeah. Confusing. Anyways, young Cable is the current main Cable in the Dawn of X line, who is basically a loudmouth, gun-obsessed, cocky kid who loves a good fight, especially if he gets to protect innocent people along the way, or it makes him look badass in front of the ladies. He has dated a bunch of younger mutants already in the comics, but is currently in a relationship with all 5 of the Cuckoos, much to Emma Frost's displeasure. Just watching you, young Cable. Number 2. Rachel Summers. Rachel has got to be one of the most confusing of the Summers children, and I say that fully acknowledging all the confusing stuff that we just talked about, including the stuff with Cable. While there is the version of Rachel Summers that became Mother Askani, there is also multiple other versions of her besides, especially as her splitting into separate entities is literally a part of sort of Mother Askani's story. Anyways, this Rachel Summers is from the alternate Earth of 811, and for most people is considered the Rachel Summers, the main one. Here she was born to Jean and Scott after Jean had bonded with the Phoenix Force and ended up living after having the confrontation with the Shi'ar. Rachel didn't just inherit her mother's extraordinary telepathic and telekinetic powers though, she also inherited the Phoenix Force itself, part of which resided within her, allowing her to use its power whenever she needed. She was friends with Franklin Richards and lived peacefully in her reality until the anti-mutant Senator Kelly was killed. This ended up resulting in pandemonium and public panic, which resulted in the death of her mother and her father, as well as an apocalyptic future where all superhuman beings were essentially captured or killed. Rachel's powers allow her to manipulate time and travel through it, which was kinda how she ended up in the reality of Earth 616. Number 1. Old Cable. Or just Cable really, we can just call him Cable. This was the original Cable, a man who was once baby Christopher, the son of Madeline Pryor and Scott Summers, and then grew up to become Nathan Summers. He was infected with the techno-organic virus by Apocalypse, but was later saved by both his adoptive mother, Jean Grey, and his biological father, Scott Summers, with some help from the Inhumans as well. Jean at this point was kinda also like Nathan's mother, and Madeline was out of the picture, having gone insane and become the Goblin Queen after she learned she was a clone of Jean created by Mr. Sinister. Jean was given memories of raising the baby that basically gave her a natural motherly instinct and attachment to the child, although I don't really know why that was necessary. She could have likely raised this baby as her son without needing those memories, but anyways, yes, Jean was also pretty much his mother. After saving the baby, Cyclops and Jean were faced with a hard decision in order to save the baby's life. They decided to send him with Sister Askani, and they actually would see him again, in the future and the past, and pretty much all throughout and around their timeline and alternate timelines besides. Adult Nathan Summers, Cable, would also at one point become the one responsible for saving his own father's life. Number 10. Prodigy. I feel like a lot of people maybe forgot about Prodigy as he's been MIA for some time in the comics and was depowered during the events of M-Day. But with the magic of Krakoa and Dawn of X, he was able to return to us, being resurrected and also regaining his powers. 1. Prodigy happens to be a super genius, but this is also because he's a telepath with the ability to basically mimic anyone's skill set and share their knowledge while nearby. This has also been shown in the past to extend to fighting precognition, where he can basically use his abilities to read a person and predict their next move of attack in a battle, which is pretty sweet. He often also builds his own advanced tech, and even when depowered is known to possess a great level of intellect, making him a challenging adversary whether or not he has his mutant abilities. Even as a depowered mutant, you might not want to mess with him. Number 9. Lady Mastermind. Lady Mastermind, aka Reagan Wingard, recently popped back up in the giant-sized Nightcrawler comics and was welcomed into the mutant nation of Krakoa. Some, however, may not know or appreciate her mutant history and background. Just who is Lady Mastermind? Well, she's the daughter of Jason Wingard, aka the original villain known as Mastermind. Her powers take after her father's, allowing her to create realistic illusions projected into her target's minds. While she also has an even lesser known suspected half-sister, Reagan's powers are often depicted as being the more powerful between the two, with it even being said that her abilities are even more stronger than her father's. Additionally, she is also fairly skilled in hand-to-hand combat, a skill set her father actually very much lacked. He was hilarious in a fight. He's like a rag doll. Sorry Mastermind. Number 8. Gentle. Gentle is a mutant with the abilities of super strength. I know, very hilarious considering his name. He can grant himself immediate muscle mass that basically allows him to change size and increase his strength when needed. It is yet unknown just how strong Gentle can make himself, and he is also known for being someone who could potentially even take on the Hulk, although he is more of a pacifist, hence his name. Gentle's real name is Nezno Abidemi. I hope I'm saying that right. Nezno Abidemi. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. It's a hard one to say. He was raised in Wakanda, but always felt like an outsider because his father was Russian. When his mutant abilities surfaced, it was actually Aurora Monroe Storm, who was queen at the time in Wakanda, who encouraged him to be sent to the Xavier Institute so he could learn how to better control his powers. His vibranium tattoos are also meant to help him to control those powers. Also, vibranium tattoos are super cool, but I think they're also super painful to get, so maybe don't get them. You can't, because it's not a real substance, but still. Number 7. Egg. Fabio Medina might not seem like a powerful mutant based on his ability, but since his rise to the supremely important mutant group known as the Five on Krakoa, he can be considered one of the most important and powerful mutants around. When he combines his powers with that of the Five, he has control over life and death. Originally, the bouncy gold balls that he shot forth from his chest were believed to be nothing special, but it was later revealed that these balls were actually infertile eggs, which could be used in the process of resurrecting new mutants. Number 6. Tempest. Eva Bell is another member of the Five. She has actually appeared in less issues than Egg, if you can believe it, despite the fact that she has a pretty neat power set, and it's been neat since the beginning, which allows her to time travel. Tempest, as she used to be known, was able to control the passage of time in a specific pocket of space. She could also slow time in a current space that she also inhabited, either slowing time around her or creating time bubbles to manipulate time in that bubble, where she could speed it up or slow it down. The only challenge for her has been losing control of her powers, which can cause them to behave unpredictably. Still, controlling time is a pretty impressive and powerful ability to have. Number 5. Empath. Manuel de la Rocha made his first appearance in the original New Mutant series, where he was part of Emma Frost's team known as the Hellions. He's recently reappeared in the newest Hellion series from 2020 and proves just how powerful, but also how sadistic he can be. Empath's power is, you guessed it, empathy, and he can use this power to not only sense others' emotions, but also to control them, in effect manipulating others into doing whatever he wishes them to do. His influence can be subtle, such that someone might not even realize they're being manipulated by him, or it can be more forceful, turning his victims into complete husks of their former selves and bending them fully to his will. Number 4. Vulcan. Vulcan is one of the most powerful mutants around, being an Omega level mutant, skilled in energy manipulation and absorption. Yet he is somehow the lesser known of all the Summers despite his insane power levels. He has also demonstrated the ability to absorb his opponent's powers as well and use them for himself on the rare occasion. Vulcan is the youngest Summers brother, also known as Gabe Summers, and we only learned of his existence in 2006 when he first appeared in the comic X-Men Deadly Genesis issue number 1, and and yet he is considered the most powerful of these three. Number 3. Orphan Maker and Nanny. Orphan Maker still remains a relatively mysterious character, though is also one who still proves to be a force to be reckoned with in combat. Orphan Maker is also known as Peter and was part of a plot of Mr. Sinister's originally. However, when Mr. Sinister decided that Peter could not be controlled, he decided to eliminate him. Nanny, an insane cyborg, however, saved him, believing it was her responsibility to look after orphan mutant children and protect them. Although I will say she's got a weird way of going about it. While insane, Nanny was also once a scientist and remains quite intelligent. She actually outfitted Orphan Maker with weapons and a powerful suit to help her in her task. While it's still unclear as to what Orphan Maker's true mutant powers are, and while he seems to still have the mind of a child, probably due to Nanny's manipulation, his suit and weapons make him a formidable foe in combat, and he often uses pixie dust in battle to help Nanny influence and control the minds of their opponents, as she herself is a telepath, but a weak one, so she needs a little bit of help. Needs a little bit of pixie dust. Even during a fight with Cyclops, Scott's optic blasts were unable to harm Orphan Maker while he was in his armor, with Scott's blast simply reflecting off the armor, causing more harm than help, really. Number 2. Trinary. Considering the modern age we live in, Trinary is a pretty powerful mutant. Her abilities allow her to control all tech that is within her line of sight. She has used these powers to move massive sums of money digitally and to manipulate and control Sentinel tech. Currently on Krakoa, Trinary is one of the few Technopathic mutants trusted with the important project known as Sleeping Giant, wherein mutants monitor for upcoming advancement in Sentinel technology, such as Nimrods or the creation of a mother mold, so that they can ideally put a stop to its development. Project Sleeping Giant were instrumental in helping the X-Men to destroy a mother mold that Orchis was creating before it went online. Number 1. Bailey Hoskins. Now you might think I'm joking here if you happen to know the obscure Bailey Hoskins, but I'm really not. Bailey appeared in his own miniseries titled X-Men, Worst X-Man Ever. He was known for being the worst X-Man ever because his ability only allowed him to do one thing: explode. But he didn't have any regeneration powers, so he basically was a mutant who could never use his powers, otherwise he'd kill himself. It's kind of a one-hit wonder. So how is that powerful? Well, it's also implied in the series that when he does choose to sacrifice himself and blow up the villain of the story, that he makes it possible for Earth 616 to come into existence. So without him, we wouldn't have the main Marvel continuity that we know and love today, potentially. If saving the entire continuity from becoming a dystopian future isn't powerful, then I don't know what is. Number 10. Kid Cable. He might not be as powerful as the old man or as wise, or for that matter as powerful as some of the other youngsters on this list, but Kid Cable has a ton of potential. And to be fair, he is pretty powerful when it comes to outwitting people and working his way out of some pretty sticky situations. He also has the Summer family waiting in the wings to back him up when he needs. While their power is obviously not his own, having both his mom, Marvel Girl, and dad, Cyclops, as frequent allies, as well as his sister Rachel, is something that should be noted. Because there are many times these days in the Dawn of X line where we see this family supporting one another and teaming up. Cable has his powerful telepathic and telekinetic powers, as well as his love of big guns and big swords to help him qualify as one of the most powerful and sometimes resourceful teen mutants around. Number 9. Jubilee. Jubilee is one of those mutants who also has the potential to be even more powerful the older she gets. As a teenager, her powers were more unpredictable, but she still had that potential to create mass destruction using them. A lot of people think of Jubilee's powers as just being a fun display of fireworks, but she can actually create explosions on a subatomic level, meaning that she has the potential to go nuclear under the right conditions or with the correct amount of training. Her emotional connection with Wolverine gave Jubilee enough power to decimate part of Mandarin's castle when Logan was in danger. While Jubilee might not have seemed like the most powerful teen mutant, she definitely was capable of more than most give her credit for. So now she's pretty much all grown up though, with her son, who is currently a dragon, Shogo, to look after. But she was a teen once, and when she was a teen, she was pretty powerful. She was pretty cool. I like Jubilee, she's one of my favorites. Before we move on to our next point, just a reminder to give that like button a little click. Just give it a little click. It really helps us out on the channel and lets us know that you are loving these mutant lists. And who doesn't love mutant lists? I love mutant lists personally. Let me do more of them, please. Click the like. Number 8. Prodigy. Prodigy is one of the smartest mutants around, and even when he was depowered, he was still pretty powerful. David Alain was always known for his intelligence, but when his mutant powers activated, he became even more brilliant. His powers allow him to telepathically absorb the knowledge and skill set of those around him. Initially, he worked towards not using his powers and keeping them a secret, trying to resist them because he felt that any knowledge gained this way while he was a student was sort of cheating, which, to be fair, I guess it kinda is. Eventually, he ended up joining the New Mutants and enrolling at the Xavier Institute. Even when he lost his powers, he was still considered to be one of the brightest now depowered mutants around, as he still had the knowledge and skills that he had already absorbed and learned telepathically. He still held on to that. But now he's back to being a mutant because Krakoa. Number 7. X-23, or as we know her now, just Wolverine. As Logan says, you just call yourself Wolverine, there can be 2 of us. Laura Kinney was created and raised to be a fighting machine. It was all her mother could do to sneak in some normalcy to her daughter's routine. Also, the story of how her creator was forced into bearing her and literally become her mother in that way is pretty messed up. But then again, Laura's whole story is pretty messed up, so there's that. Even as a little kid, she was trained to become an unstoppable killer, and even when she found her way to freedom and the X-Men, as well as Wolverine, her genetic father, who she was a female clone of, she wasn't even safe from a world of killing. She was such a good killer that Cyclops couldn't resist recruiting her to the X-Force, the mutant team that was sent in for less savory and more secretive Black Ops missions. Number 6. Elixir. Josh Foley's powers first manifested when he was just a teenager, like most mutants. Right away, they were pretty powerful, allowing him to heal people who had life-threatening injuries on the verge of death. He was originally a part of the anti-mutant group known as the Reavers, who kicked him out after learning that he was a mutant, severely beating him when he wouldn't accept their rejection. He just wanted to hate mutants still, but no, you can't, because you are one. Sorry. His parents also disowned him, and with nowhere to go, he was forced to join the Xavier Institute, despite not initially being interested in joining his fellow mutants. Elixir's powers were shown to be so powerful, even from a young age, that he could even heal powers that had been lost, giving Rain, who he had a crush on at the time, her powers back after she lost them when he kissed her. And to people who are like, but healers, are they that great? Because what if they get hurt? He can even heal himself, so yeah, Elixir's pretty cool. Number 5. Kitty Pryde. It's really hard when we are talking about Kitty because I personally just think her mutant powers as they stand are so overpowered. Just in my opinion. We also have to consider that Kitty Pryde kinda got fast-tracked during her time on the X-Men team. When Kitty joined the X-Men, she was basically a teenager and she was already pretty powerful. In fact, she could walk on air back in the original X-Men days. And Kitty also didn't have any trials on other like young X-Men teams. She was kind of just like put on the X-Men right out of the gate. So that is pretty crazy. Straight out of the gate, she was working with the pros. Of course, over time, she has had some of her weaknesses tweaked and even removed, but in exchange for some of her other secondary abilities kind of being lost. Teenage Kitty also went on tons of adventures that were just always seemingly adding and building on her skill set list. And even now as an adult, Kitty, or Kate as she currently prefers to be called, is still one of the most powerful and often, in my opinion, underrated mutants that we have on the X-Men roster today. Number 4. Magic. Magic is insanely powerful, even as a teenager, simply because she spent so long training with the powerful magic user turned demon who kidnapped her years ago, Belasco. Belasco wanted to harness Illyana's powers for himself, seeing her great potential. She eventually became so powerful that she defeated Belasco in his own dimension of Limbo. When she returned to her own dimension, escaping, she was no longer a little girl, though barely any time had passed on Earth while she was gone. It had only been seconds for her fellow mutants since she left, but for Magic it had been years, and she returned as a super powerful teenager with a strong connection to Limbo. While in Limbo, actually, Magic is basically a god, as being in Limbo puts her closer to her power source and effectively makes her almost undefeatable while there. Number 3. Jean Grey. Even when we see any teen versions of Jean, they are known for usually being very, very powerful. While we might now know Jean as an adult woman who is immensely powerful when she needs to be, or when the plot requires her to go into Phoenix mode and kind of act as a deus ex machina. We also have met younger versions of her thanks to various time traveling shenanigans. Even as a teenager and a child, Jean is often portrayed as being exceedingly powerful. In fact, when she originally met Xavier, her telepathic powers were so great that he was forced to put up mental blocks to protect her from them until she was better equipped to handle such an elevated level of power. And after a few adventures with the X-Men, she did get those blocks removed. She was ready. She was ready for the power. Number 2, Hope Summers. Even as a baby, Hope was super powerful. Hope's just blowing everybody else out of the water. She's like, I've been powerful since I was a little baby and I didn't even know what was going on. She was like, object permeance, what's that? But also, I have immense power. As a teenager, Hope was destined to be the new host of the Phoenix Force, but was prevented from connecting with the Phoenix. However, she was still instrumental in the Avengers vs. X-Men story when she helped Scarlet Witch to erase the Phoenix Force from existence near the end of that story. Even though that doesn't really make much sense now, given that apparently Scarlet Witch isn't a mutant and Hope's powers are to kind of amplify or adopt the powers of other mutants in her area, so that doesn't really make sense now, but anyways. Like Rogue, she can take on other mutants' power sets and even take on multiple at a time. The difference being she doesn't need physical contact to do so, and it does not drain the powers of life energy or life energy of the mutants whom she is emulating. As a baby, she was powerful enough to heal Rogue with one touch, who at the time was dying and comatose. You also basically know you're powerful when you're a mutant when you get your powers earlier than your teen years. That just means you're like the most powerful. Number 1, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, I can't have a list with a name like Teenage and Mutant in the title and not mention the TMNT. Even though I know everyone's probably like, but Amanda, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are not more powerful than Hope Summers. What are you talking about? But this is my list and I want them to be number 1. So that's how it goes. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are definitely some of the most powerful pizza-loving Teenage Mutant Turtles out there. They might not be as powerful in terms of taking other people's powers or becoming a host of the Phoenix Force, but I also bet if they were able to become the host of Marvel's Phoenix Force, were they in the same reality, they would potentially even give Jean and Hope a run for their money. The other thing that makes the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles so powerful is that there isn't just one of them, there's a whole team of them. And working together, there is almost no force of evil that they cannot stop.